Joseph and inherited the role of Jacob in divine prophecy. Just like Jacob had disguised himself as Esau in order to receive the blessing, Joseph needed to do the same. Historically, Joseph became like an Egyptian. He was not known to his brothers. His brothers did not recognize him. They thought he was an Egyptian or subject of the Egyptians, a foreigner, until Joseph revealed himself to them. Joseph ruled over Egypt, and he saved his brothers and also saved the rest of humanity at his time, restoring up grain when the famine struck Egypt and all the rest of humanity, of civilization at that time. A famous rabbi of recent times, Rabbi Abraham Cohen Cook, 1865 to 1935, said that the Messiah son of Joseph, the Messiah son of Joseph, is someone who will precede the Messiah son of David, who will prepare the way from him. And he will be the future leader of the 10 tribes. And so too he said that an aspect of Messiah ben Joseph is represented by Jews who assimilate to the culture of the Gentiles, become like Gentiles, and elevate the heathen nations from within. And he was referring to assimilated Jews, but this principle also applies to the lost 10 tribes. It applies even more so to them. Headed by Joseph, they were to lose their identity, become like the Gentiles in order to elevate themselves and the rest of mankind together with them. That's what the British and Americans did. So that is what we have. That is, has anyone any questions, any comments to make?
Yeah.
Can you explain how this is related to the 10 tribes, and the return?
How is it related to the 10 tribes?
Yeah.
Just a second, just before I just came across a source, a few minutes before I came here, in the book of Micah in the Bible, chapter 7, verse 15, it says, in the time when, like in the time of your coming out of Egypt, I will show you wonders, I will show you miracles. Okay? And he says, in the future, it will be like they came out of Egypt. And he also says, in the beginning, the Messiah son of Ephraim, that is the Messiah son of Joseph, the Messiah son of Ephraim, shall come, and he shall arouse his glory, his might against the heathen peoples. And therefore the heathen will see, and they shall be ashamed against his might, that they will not be able to prevail against the might of the Messiah son of Ephraim. In the end times the Messiah son of Ephraim shall come, and he shall lead the 10 tribes back to the land of Israel, and they shall be like they came out of Egypt. So what we have here, point. We have other verses like that. Zechariah and other of the prophets spoke in a similar vein, that there will be a repetition of the coming out of Egypt when the 10 tribes return. At first the Jews come back little by little by way of nature. They rebuild the land and prepare the infrastructure in some way for the 10 tribes, and then 10 tribes come back. And that is a simple meaning of the Bible. And but before the coming of the 10 tribes, what will have happened, that the descendants of Joseph will have influenced the whole of humanity. And not only Joseph, but also the 10 other tribes amongst them. We had the British Empire, the French Empire, the Dutch Empire, and all together they ruled over most of the earth. You also had the USA, and its influence representing Joseph, and they have influenced all of humanity, and they have fed humanity and helped humanity and upgraded humanity and raised the level of humanity from barbarism to something closer to what should be normal. And we had the Green Revolution not long ago, where the USA changed crops. Private enterprises in the USA invested in the Green Revolution in new ways of agriculture, of growing crops that would be drought resistant, growing crops in ways that would prevent them from being eaten up by grubs, by pests, of storing them, of harvesting them. And hundreds of millions of people in Latin America, in Asia, are alive by virtue of that, and are still living by virtue of that. In other words, the USA on that alone helped was the feed of the supplier of the nations of the earth. In addition to that, they have civilizing humanity, civilizing numerous nations. Some nations elevated them, as the British in their own way did before them. And they have changed the world, or at least shown the way. And that was what Joseph was supposed to have done. And they did that thinking that they were Gentiles, acting like Gentiles, being considered Gentiles. And if they had not been like that, they may not have been able to do what they did. But the time will come when they have to put off the disguise, realize who they are, and go back to their sources. And the Mashiach, then Yosef will lead the way, will bring us out, start to bring them back. And when they come back, according to the Bible, according to Micah, according to Zechariah, according to Jeremiah, and so on, they will come back to the area of Lebanon, come back to the area of Jordan, come back to the area of the hills of Samaria, that is the West Bank. So first I will come back to those areas. And then maybe, so that is what we know, the simple meaning of the Bible. They will come back, and this is what we should emphasize. And now they should have to continue to fulfill their task, their unique task of what they were. But it may be, I don't know, maybe today I received a letter from someone who claimed that they had a talk with Binyamin Netanyahu a few years ago. I posted out to my site on my list, and Binyamin Netanyahu was in favor of having communities of Christian Zionists coming to the West Bank, coming to Israel, and living in the land and helping to develop the land. So something like that may also happen. Maybe a type of preparation for the 10 tribes in the end times. We don't know how things will turn out, what are the possibilities of what the God Almighty wants. We only know what we know, what has been revealed to us through the Bible. But there are numerous possibilities. Each person has to find his own funnel, his own track, one could say, his own trajectory to do what he has to do. Go ahead, Guy.
Okay. Is Mashiach ben Joseph?
Yeah. Mashiach ben Joseph. Yeah. There's a Messiah, son of Joseph.
Is he going to be from 10 tribes?
Yes. According to the simple meaning of the sources, yes, he's going to be from the 10 tribes. He's going to be a descendant of either of Jeroboam ben Nebat, the first king of Israel, or from Joshua ben Nun, who conquered the land when a disciple of Moses when they came into the land. And according to the simple meaning of the sources, he is going to be a Gentile. He's going to be from the 10 tribes.
Okay.
But we don't know. Okay. I'm telling you, that is implied by the sources. Okay.
Right.
Rega, Sylvia, you had a question? Sylvia?
Has anyone talked to Benjamin Netanyahu recently to see if he still feels the same way about Christian Zionists coming in and working the land?
So this letter asked me to go and do it, but I don't know him. And I wouldn't get in the door. And I don't. And also, I haven't got the time. It's not someone like me not having the time for the President, Prime Minister of Israel. It's a bit, sounds a bit
But yeah,
It's not in
you
place.
know,
But anyway, I'm not. That is not my. That is not what I do. And also, I know, but Binyamin and Netanyahu for decades, ever since close to the beginning of his political career, he's been known to have been always friendly to Christian Zionists, always encouraging towards them. But he's a politician. There are limitations on him, the things he can do, things he can't do, and also works with other people. And there's also a question of priorities, and so that is what we have. And there are also numerous subsidiary considerations that he has to face up to. So I wouldn't be optimistic about it happening tomorrow, but you never know, okay? But it's interesting that there are people thinking in that direction, and there are also groups trying to get together, as you yourself mentioned. You probably know more about that than I do. And who knows, something may or may not come from that. Anyway, David, you wanted to say something?
Our group was discussing this whole idea of having a settlement in the West Bank in Malifran, and also other people were there from all over the world talking about this in 1999.
And they do have a kind of settlement. They have a kind of settlement near Shrem. They have a couple. I don't know how big it is, but it exists. And then a few other places. They have settlements. They have began something along those lines. I can't tell you the details, but they exist.
Are those Christians?
The Christians, yeah. I was at a meeting. I was at a meeting where they were present and they spoke of what they're doing. And they said they had come there on condition that they should not practice conversion. But they had succeeded, despite that, in converting a few Jews, and he's actually seemed quite proud of it. So
Yeah.
why does it seem that these people are Christians and they live in Israel without a problem? I don't understand why it is so hard for the rest of us to come.
no, I don't know. So first of all, I'm not involved with that. For years, I've not been involved with that. I don't consider it something that we should be involved with, but there are quite a few Christians in Israel. Christians do come to Israel, and they do live here. And some of them come and they stay here illegally, and they get it legalized, or they get exception. You can get special exemptions from made, and some of them had problems. I knew a person. Actually, a lady from India, also knew others, but she was here for a good number of years, and she at first believed in Christianity, and every 3 months she had to leave the country. Used to go on holiday to islands in Greece and so on, every 3 months. Then she'd come back and she'd work. She had a work permit, and she used to take care of children. And eventually she converted to Judaism and became a full-fledged citizen. But it took her a long time before she went through the psychological process of being prepared to do that. But there are quite a few people like her. There are Christians who come and stay, and some of them have problems. Like her, every 3 months she had to get out of the country. She took a trip, Turkey, Greece, every time somewhere else, 2 or 3 days holiday, and come back again. But she was never sure, never 100% certain when she came back again that she'd let her in. But they always did. But you never know. It ends a certain uncertainty to life. And in the meantime, she's burning up time and space. In the meantime, she could have raised a family, she could have done that and this. You know what I mean? People are human. You haven't got you have a biological life. You only have a certain amount of time to do things. So you have to take this into consideration.
You said she cared for children. Did she have an orphanage or a home for kids?
No. She used to take care of the children of other people. She used to go to their house, and they had little children. Apparently, both husbands were reasonably well off. They both worked, and she was a caretaker. I don't really know the details. Something like that.
Okay.
She was reasonably well paid. I don't know, it wasn't exactly, didn't get a fortune, but she was reasonably well paid, respected, and they liked her, as far as I know. But that's just an example. There are other people like that.
Yeah, that's definitely not a second Exodus that we're talking about, which is something big and dramatic with miracles.
It's like it's the same thing as you have all over the world. You have people, foreigners coming and staying in different places. I knew someone who went to America. I knew a couple of people who went to America without a visa, or they overstayed their visa. And they established, one person established quite a successful business. And he was employing people. And he, and apparently, don't know who, someone informed on him, the authorities, and they arrested him, and then he was expelled. And then they come back to Israel. You have a lot of people in America, they're illegally or quasi-illegally, or in a limbo type situation. You have that all over the world. You have this situation, and so you also have it in Israel. But it isn't, and some of the people who either feel Jewish or they feel associated with lost end tribes, they feel they want to be here. So that is what you have. You always have the Jerusalem syndrome. People coming here and wanting to stay and not being able to leave. And most of them are normal. They're very nice people, a lot of them. But some of them also have illusions. You have a lot of people think they're the Messiah. A lot of people think they're Elijah. You have a lot of people think they're who knows what. And it is not. It's a clinical phenomenon. It even has a professional name and professional ways of dealing with that situation. You can read about it on the internet.
Yair, I have a question.
Pardon?
I have a question about Esau. You said that Esau ruled over Jacob, but it says in the prophecy that Jacob would rule over Esau. In what time in history did Esau rule over the 10 tribes?
So, we understand in the beginning, when the Assyrians conquered the 10 tribes, there was a beginning, they had to use bronze. And the Assyrians had to move, had to relocate. So they set up colonies overseas. They grew grains in Spain, they had estates. And they mined silver in Spain and tin. And also tin in the British Isles through the Phoenicians. They used the Phoenicians and they used, according to Amos, they used Philistines to oversee, to be the agents in this.
So at
what time, how long did it continue and what time did it change? I can't really tell. It could be that many of the, and how it changed, we don't really know. But sometimes it did change. It did change because because Esau also set up his own colonies, and he ruled over portions of Europe. Rome was founded by Esau. The Romans were from Esau. So were many of the Germans. So were other peoples. So and some of them were from Israel. It doesn't mean some of them were also from Israel. Some of the people from Germany were Israelites, and some were not. And in areas that we identified as belong to Israel, Israelites were in the majority. In the course of time, it sorted itself out, more or less.
I just could never understand how Esau would be ruling over 10 tribes when the prophecy was that Jacob would rule over Esau. So.
No, well, you said also know that you're about the 10 tribes of Babylonians conquered the Jews and took them into Babylonia. Who was ruling over them in Babylonia? They were ruled. May have been in Babylonia. They may have been relatively free, with civil rights. I don't know, but on the whole, they were ruled over by Babylonia, and after that by the Persians. And so too the 10 tribes were taken away by the Assyrians. It says it expressly. They didn't pick themselves up and go away of their own volition. They were taken away by force. It was the Bible that tells us. The Bible tells us in the book of Kings, and also the prophets describe it. Actually, I had someone who was I was giving this explanation to someone, and he was quite indignant on my explanation. He said, "What do you mean they had to be taken by their hands and led away? Why couldn't they have done it themselves?" So as if so I said, "I don't write the history. This is what the history says. They were taken away by force and resettled in their areas. And in their areas, they eventually became independent or asserted themselves. But they went through a stage, an evolution. They had to go down to the level of the Gentiles, to a very low level, and to come upwards and to bring the rest of the world with them. And that's what they did. And they had to forget where they came from. So maybe for that you needed foreigners ruling over them, oppressing them, forcing them to act in different ways. That's the way the world goes. That's the way history plays itself out. But there were a group of them, or some of them, a group of them was actually planning, or was alleged to be planning terrorist activities at that time. Well,
that was a big scam that the government was using, with Clinton and Barack, and trying to turn the Jews against the Christians, okay? It's the sort of thing that you can expect. It was a psyop, a false flag. And, but I'm telling you, it scared, like I had to go around with an Air Force jacket, okay? Because I was sensing, whoa, the army is looking for people like me.
Yeah, so anyway, where we see it, that a lot of people who are interested in our teachings and so on, they're descend from those 10 tribes, and those 10 tribes will all come back together. Mashiach ben Yosef come back together as a group when the time comes. Some of them are also descended from Jews, and those who descend from Jews should be aware of it. And they should identify with the Jews and make it and finalize it, if that is what they are. So each person is different. Each person has his own course to fulfill.
Yeah, there's a matter of finding out your DNA. Is there a way of finding out Sephardic Jews' DNA?
Yeah,
I know Ashkenazi is not hard.
DNA is quite developed. It can tell you a lot of things. It's also useful, and it's reliable to a degree. We think that historically, going back more than 2,000 years, DNA is not correct because it changes. There's an effect of having old populations changing their DNA due to climatic influences and other environmental changes, and that is a point that we believe in, and we are, one could say, on the lookout for evidence supporting this. We have some, and we publish it in postings occasionally. But that is a point that we also are involved in, because DNA, as it is presented, is in effect nullifies our claims or raises a question about them. The DNA of people in Western Europe is mainly R1b, with some additional groupings such as R1A, and so on. And whereas instead of the Jews, is J1, J2, or others, other E1b, and so on, other groups. And we believe that this is caused by the environment, the different environments that they both lived in at crucial points of time, But the experts do not agree with this, at least as far as we know. So that is a problem. And the ordinary person is, if he has to choose between the experts and between us, naturally he would choose the experts. So, but nevertheless, we keep going. We keep on pushing our point of view. Also, quoting the Bible, quoting historical facts, realities as we know them. And this is part of what our task. And maybe God wants it. Maybe the Almighty wants it like that way at this time. That there will not be a certainty, at least for the time being. That there will not be a certainty. Maybe the Almighty wants it that way for the time being. So we also have to take cognizance of this possibility.
A man named Nathaniel Jensen, PhD,
Yes,
has written the book Traced, and he claims to have a way of tracing people back to Ham, Shem, or Japheth.
Yeah, I bought 2 books of his.
Did you?
Yeah, but it's not. I was not convinced, but it was interesting. But at least he challenges conventional DNA findings.
Okay.
He presents an alternate point of view, and he's professional, and from that alone he's made a contribution, even if his own solutions are not 100% acceptable. Okay, so we'll call it a night. May God of Israel bless you all. Thank you for coming.
You.